Jason Attawale sat in his dimly lit bedroom, staring at the wall as if it held the answers to his pain. His hands trembled as he reached for the glass of water on his bedside table. His body was betraying him. His once powerful frame felt weak, his muscles ached, and his chest burned with an invisible fire. The doctors had given him 5 months. 5 months to say goodbye to the world he had spent his entire life trying to conquer. Tears welled in his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Billionaires didn't cry. At least, that's what he had always told himself. But tonight, as the silence of his mansion surrounded him, he felt smaller than he had ever been. "Is this how it ends?" he thought bitterly. "After all my years of sacrifice, all my sleepless nights building an empire, I will just disappear?" The reality of death clawed at his mind. No matter how much money he had, no matter how many people admired him, in a few months he would be gone. And there would be nothing left of him. His chest tightened, not just from the illness, but from the loneliness that suddenly felt suffocating. Who will remember me? Who will carry my name? His mind raced through the faces of business partners, employees, friends. None of them felt close. He had given his life to work, but never made time for love. And now it was too late. Except, maybe it wasn't. His thoughts drifted to Ella. Ella. She was the only person who had been by his side for years, not because of his money, but because she was kind. She had cared for him in small, unnoticed ways, bringing him tea when he worked late, reminding him to eat when he forgot, making sure the house always felt like a home. She was the only family he had left, even if she wasn't his blood. Jason struggled to his feet, gripping the wall for support. His body was weak, but his mind was set. He needed to talk to her. He found Ella in the dining room, clearing the table after his untouched dinner. She looked up and immediately noticed his pale face, the dark circles under his eyes, the way he held his chest, as if it pained him to breathe. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, concern deep in her voice. Jason exhaled shakily. "Ella, please sit." She hesitated, wiping her hands on her apron before obeying. For a moment, Jason couldn't find the words. He stared at her, this young woman who had worked under his roof for 5 years, who had never once asked him for more than her salary, who had remained humble despite the luxury around her. Finally, he spoke. "I'm dying, Ella." She flinched. "Sir, what?" Jason swallowed hard. "Cancer, stage 4. The doctors gave me 5 months, maybe less." Her eyes widened, her lips parted in shock. "No, no, sir, that can't be true." Jason let out a bitter laugh. "I wish it wasn't, but it is. And now I have to face the truth." He leaned forward, his voice breaking. "Ella, I have spent my whole life chasing money. I thought wealth would make me untouchable, but look at me now. All the billions in my account, all the cars, the houses, none of them can save me." Ella felt her throat tighten. She had never seen him like this. So vulnerable, so broken. "I have no one, Ella." Jason's voice was almost a whisper. "No wife, no child. I worked so hard that I forgot to live. And now, I don't want to die empty." Ella's hands trembled on her lap. Jason inhaled deeply, then looked into her eyes. "I need to ask you something, and I know it's unfair, but I have no choice." Ella swallowed hard. "What is it, sir?" Jason hesitated, then spoke the words that had been burning inside him. "Ella, I want you to be the mother of my child." Her heart pounded. "Sir, what are you saying?" Jason reached for her hand, his grip weak but desperate. "I know this is sudden. I know it's crazy, but I need to leave something behind. Someone, and you're the only person I trust." Ella felt her whole body go numb. "I'm not asking you to love me," Jason continued. I need to know that a part of me will live on, that when I close my eyes for the last time, I won't disappear completely." Tears filled Ella's eyes. "Sir, I'm a virgin," she whispered. Jason's eyes softened. "I know, and I would never force you. But please, just think about it." Silence hung between them, thick with unspoken emotions. Ella's mind was spinning. How could she even consider this? How could she refuse? Her boss, this man who had given her and her family a better life, was dying, and his last wish was to have a child. Could she be the one to give him that? Ella looked into Jason's eyes, and for the first time, she saw something beyond wealth and power. She saw a man terrified of being forgotten, and her heart ached for him. Ella lay awake in her small bedroom, staring at the ceiling. The dim glow of her bedside lamp cast long shadows, mirroring the storm inside her heart. Jason's words echoed in her mind. "I need to leave something behind. I want you to be the mother of my child." Tears slipped down her cheeks. How had her life come to this moment? She had come to Lagos 5 years ago, desperate for work. Jason had hired her, not because he needed a maid, his house was already spotless, but because she had reminded him of someone. He never told her who. Over the years, he had treated her with kindness, paying her more than she deserved, helping her family, without asking for anything in return. And now, this man, this strong, brilliant man, was dying. She could still see the pain in his eyes, the quiet fear behind his words. She had never thought of him as vulnerable until today. But how could she agree? She was a virgin. She had always dreamed of falling in love first, of getting married before giving herself to a man. If she agreed to this, those dreams would be gone forever. She turned on her side, curling into herself. But if I say no, will I regret it for the rest of my life? A knock on the door startled her. She quickly wiped her face. "Come in." The door opened, and Jason stood there. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by hesitation. He looked thinner than before, his skin pale. He was getting weaker. "I didn't mean to wake you," he said softly. Ella sat up. "I wasn't sleeping." Jason stepped inside, leaning against the doorframe as if standing for too long drained him. I wanted to say that I understand if you can't do this." Ella's chest tightened. The way he said it so quietly, so defeated, it broke her heart. He sighed. "I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. You've done enough for me already." Ella bit her lip. "Sir," he gave a sad smile. "Jason," he corrected. "If we're having this conversation, you should call me Jason." She nodded, her hands twisting in her lap. "Jason, this is not an easy decision for me." "I know," he said, "and I don't want to pressure you." Silence filled the room. Then Ella whispered, "I've thought about it." Jason's breath caught. She looked down. "You have been good to me, to my family. You've given me a life I never imagined I could have, and when I think about you leaving this world with nothing to hold on to, I can't bear it." Jason's throat tightened. "Ella," she raised her eyes to his, "I will do it." A tear slipped down Jason's face. He hadn't even realized he was crying. For the first time since his diagnosis, a piece of the weight crushing his soul lifted. He stepped forward, wanting to hold her, to thank her, but he stopped himself. He had to be careful. Ella wiped her eyes and gave a shaky smile. I don't know how to do this. Jason let out a breathless chuckle. Neither do I. For the first time in a long time, he felt something other than despair. He felt hope. Ella, he said gently, we'll figure it out together. And at that moment, despite the sickness in his body and the uncertainty of the future, Jason knew one thing for sure. He would love Ella with everything he has. The days that followed were different. The air in the mansion felt lighter, yet heavier at the same time. Something had changed between Jason and Ella. They were no longer just employer and employee. Now, they were bound by a silent promise, one that neither of them fully understood yet. Ella found herself watching Jason more closely. She noticed the way he struggled to hide his pain, how his hands shook when he thought no one was looking, how he exhaled deeply before taking each step as if willing himself to stay strong. Jason, on the other hand, saw Ella in a new light. He had always known she was kind, but now he saw her strength. She had agreed to do something that could change her entire life, not for herself, but for him. One evening, as the sun cast golden rays over the living room, they sat together in silence. Jason rested in his favorite chair, while Ella sat on the couch, her hands nervously folded. I want us to do this the right way. Jason finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. Ella looked up, confused. What do you mean? Jason inhaled deeply. If we're going to have a child together, I don't want it to be transactional. I want us to have something real, something built on trust and respect. Ella felt her heart pound. But I don't know what that means. Jason gave a small smile. It means I want to court you, not just take what I need and leave you with the consequences. Ella's breath hitched. The idea of Jason, this powerful, wealthy man, wanting to court her, was beyond anything she had ever imagined. But you don't have time, she whispered, pain lacing her words. Jason reached for her hand. His touch was warm despite his weakness. Then let's not waste it. Ella swallowed hard. That night, Jason did something he had never done before. He took Ella out on a date. He drove her to a quiet restaurant. Nothing too fancy, but elegant enough to make her feel special. As they sat across from each other, Jason watched her with admiration. You look beautiful, he said, his voice sincere. Ella enrojeció, mirando hacia abajo su simple vestido azul. I didn't think I'd ever hear you say that. Jason chuckled. I've thought it before. I just never had the courage to say it. Ella met his eyes, searching for the man beyond the billionaire, beyond the sickness. And for the first time, she saw him, the real Jason. As the night went on, they talked, they laughed, and for a moment, they forgot about the tragedy looming over them. The drive home was quiet, but it was not the silence of awkwardness. It was heavy with something unspoken, something neither Jason nor Ella could fully describe. Jason stole a glance at Ella as she sat beside him, her hands resting on her lap. Tonight had been different. For the first time in years, he had felt something beyond the weight of his illness. Hope. When they arrived home, Jason stepped out of the car and walked over to her side, opening the door like a gentleman. Ella hesitated before taking his hand. His grip was weak, but firm enough to make her feel safe. As they walked inside, Jason's voice was low. Would you like to come upstairs? Ella's breath caught. She understood what he was asking. Her heart pounded, but she nodded. Yes. Jason led her to his bedroom, a place she had never entered before. The room was warm, with soft lights casting shadows over the large bed. Ella stood near the door, her pulse racing. "Jason, I'm nervous." Jason stepped closer, lifting her chin gently. "So am I." She searched his eyes, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability there. This wasn't just about desire, it was about trust, about love. Jason ran a thumb across her cheek. "Are you sure?" Ella exhaled. "I want this." Slowly, Jason closed the space between them, pressing his lips softly against hers. The kiss was warm, unhurried, like he was memorizing her. His fingers trembled as they touched her skin, undressing her carefully, as if she might break. Ella felt exposed, yet safe in his arms. She had never been touched like this before, never felt her body respond in ways she didn't understand. When he laid her gently on the bed, she shivered, not from fear, but from the overwhelming emotions crashing over her. The pain was sharp at first, and tears welled in her eyes, but Jason kissed them away, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'll go slow." Ella clutched onto him, breathing through the discomfort. But soon the pain faded, replaced by a warmth that spread through her. When it was over, Jason held her tightly, his fingers trailing lazily across her bare back. Ella rested her head on his chest, listening to the faint, steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Are you okay?" Jason murmured. Ella nodded, a small smile on her lips. "It was painful, but I don't regret it." Jason kissed her forehead, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me." Ella suspiró contenta, envolviendo sus brazos alrededor de él. And for the first time in her life, she knew what it meant to truly belong to someone. Ella woke up to the gentle rays of the morning sun, filtering through the curtains. For a moment, she didn't move. She just lay there, wrapped in Jason's warmth, listening to his slow, steady breathing. She turned her head slightly, watching him. His face looked peaceful, free from the pain that usually lingered in his eyes. His hand rested protectively around her waist, as if afraid she would disappear. Last night had changed everything. Ella's heart swelled with emotions she couldn't explain. She had given herself to him, not just her body, but her heart. And despite the pain of losing her innocence, she felt no regret. Jason stirred beside her, his eyelashes fluttering as he slowly woke up. His gaze landed on her, and for a moment he just stared, his eyes filled with something deep and unspoken. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice husky. Ella sonrió. "Good morning." Jason reached up, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "Are you okay?" Ella assentió. "Yes." Jason exhaled, relief washing over his face. "I was afraid that maybe you'd wake up and regret it." She shook her head. "I don't regret it, Jason. Not even for a second." His arms tightened around her, pulling her closer. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me this, for making me feel alive. Again." Ella felt a lump in her throat. Jason had been living with the fear of death for months, but for once, he wasn't thinking about the end. He was thinking about the present. She traced a finger over his chest. "I want to make the most of whatever time we have left." Jason's expression softened, but a flicker of sadness crossed his eyes. "I don't know how long I have, Ella." Ella swallowed hard. She knew that. "But you're still here," she said firmly. "And as long as you are, I'll be here with you." Jason cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I don't deserve you." Ella shook her head. "Yes, you do." Jason kissed her softly, slowly, savoring the moment. Then he pulled away and sighed. We should get up. Ella asintió, pero ninguna de ellas se movió. It was as if getting out of bed meant facing reality again. Jason finally sat up, rubbing his hands over his face. We should get checked at the hospital today. If we're really going to have a child, we need to be sure everything is okay. Ella hesitated, but agreed. It was time to take the next step. As they dressed, Ella felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Last night had been a beginning, but today would determine what came next. Jason turned to her, his gaze warm. Are you ready? Ella took a deep breath, then smiled. Yes, and with that, they stepped out of the room, not just as employer and housemaid, but as something more, something real. The air inside the small courtroom was warm, filled with the quiet murmurs of the few people gathered. Jason adjusted the cuffs of his white suit, his heart beating steadily, not out of fear, but out of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Ella stood beside him, dressed in a simple but elegant ivory gown. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face was calm. She had never imagined her wedding day would come like this, without a big celebration, without her family around, without months of planning. But looking at Jason, she knew that none of that mattered. The officiating officer cleared his throat, bringing their attention back to the moment. Mr. Jason Attawale, do you take this woman, Ella Taylor, to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish her in sickness and in health, till death do you part? Jason's eyes softened as he looked at Ella. He had lived his whole life believing that love was a distraction, but here he was, standing before the one woman who had changed everything for him. I do, he said firmly. Ella's breath hitched. The officer turned to her. Miss Ella Taylor, do you take this man, Jason Attawale, to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and stand by him in sickness and in health, till death do you part? Ella looked into Jason's eyes and saw a man who had given her kindness when she had nothing. A man who was willing to make her his partner, even in his weakest moment. She felt her lips tremble as she whispered, I do. Jason reached for her hands, squeezing them gently. With the power vested in me by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Jason lifted Ella's veil with shaky hands and leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was tender yet filled with deep emotion. A soft clap filled the room from the few witnesses present, Jason's lawyer, his personal assistant, and the judge's clerk. As they pulled away, Jason held her close and whispered, You are my miracle, Ella. Ella sonrió, luchando contra las lágrimas, and you are mine. The wedding had been small, but Jason still wanted to give Ella a special evening. He had arranged for a private dinner on the rooftop of their mansion, overlooking the glittering city. A soft breeze rustled through Ella's hair as they sat together, their hands intertwined. You know, Jason said with a small chuckle, I never imagined I'd ever get married. Ella sonrió con ironía. I never imagined I'd marry my boss. Jason laughed, but then his expression turned serious. Ella, I don't know how much time I have left, but I promise, I will love you with everything I have, every single day. Ella felt her throat tighten, and I promise to stand by you no matter what comes. Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. This is for you. Ella frunció el ceño. What's this? Jason placed it in her palm. It's the key to my safe. Inside, you'll find everything, the documents for all my properties, my will, the future plans I had for my businesses. Ella's heart pounded. Jason, I don't need this. But I need you to have it, Jason said firmly, because when I'm gone, I want to make sure you and our child have everything you need. Ella's eyes filled with tears. You're not gone yet, Jason. Jason exhaled, then cupped her face in his hands. That's why we have to make every moment count. Ella nodded, and Jason pulled her into his arms. That night, they lay in bed together, their fingers laced, their hearts beating as one. And as Jason drifted into sleep, he whispered a silent prayer. God, just let me live long enough to see my child. 3 months had passed since Jason and Ella's court wedding. Every morning Jason woke up with a silent prayer on his lips, grateful for another day to spend with his wife and their unborn child. Ella's pregnancy was beginning to show, and Jason couldn't hide his excitement. He was fascinated by every little change in her body, every craving she had, and every tiny movement she felt inside her. He would rest his head on her stomach at night, whispering to their child. My little one, it's Daddy, he would say softly. I'm waiting for you, okay? Just hold on for me. Ella would smile, running her fingers through his hair. You talk to the baby as if they can hear you. Jason chuckled. Who says they can't? Despite his joy, Jason's body was growing weaker. He had stopped going to the office completely and worked from home instead. The pain had become more frequent, and some nights he struggled to sleep. But he refused to let Ella see his suffering. One morning, Jason insisted they go for an antenatal checkup together. I want to be there for every step, he told Ella as he helped her into the car. At the hospital, they sat in the waiting room, surrounded by other pregnant women and their husbands. Jason held Ella's hand tightly, his thumb rubbing soothing circles over her skin. Mrs. Ella Attawale, the nurse called out. Jason grinned at the mention of her new name, squeezing her hand. That's you, Mrs. Attawale. Ella blushed as they stood up and followed the nurse into the doctor's office. Dr. Okafor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, smiled warmly at them. Ah, Mr. and Mrs. Attawale. How are we feeling today? I'm fine, Doctor, Ella replied, sitting down. And you, Mr. Attawale? Jason forced a smile. I'm good, Doctor. Just here to check on my wife and baby. The doctor nodded and gestured for Ella to lie on the examination table. He applied the cold gel to her belly and began the ultrasound. Jason leaned forward, watching the screen with wide eyes. A rhythmic thump, thump, thump filled the room. Jason's breath caught. Is that? Yes, Dr. Okafor confirmed. That's your baby's heartbeat. Ella turned to look at Jason, and to her surprise, his eyes were glistening with tears. It's real, Jason whispered, squeezing her hand. Our baby is real. Dr. Okafor smiled. Not just one baby, Mr. Attawale. You're having triplets. Ella gasped. Triplets? Jason's mouth fell open. He turned to Ella, then back to the doctor. 3? We're having 3 babies. Dr. Okafor nodded. Yes, 2 boys and 1 girl. Ella cubrió su boca, abrumada por la emoción. Jason, on the other hand, let out a weak laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. God really answered my prayers, he murmured. Tears slipped down Ella's cheeks. Jason cupped her face and kissed her forehead. You are amazing, Ella. You're giving me the greatest gift in the world. The doctor handed them the scan results. The babies are healthy, but Mrs. Attawale, you must get enough rest. Carrying triplets is not easy. Ella nodded, still in shock. Jason took the results and stared at the image. 3 tiny figures, 3 lives growing inside the woman he loved. As they left the hospital, Jason placed a protective hand over Ella's stomach. "Brian, Billy, and Beth," he said suddenly. "Ella Francia will Seño." "What?" "Their names, that's what I'll call them. Ella Cirio." "You've already picked names?" Jason grinned. "I don't have much time, my love. I have to do everything now." Ella's heart ached at his words. She hated being reminded of his condition, but as she looked at the joy on his face, she pushed her sadness aside. Tonight, they would celebrate. They had a future growing inside her, and Jason was still here to witness it. For now, that was enough. Jason held Ella's hand tightly as they drove home from the hospital, his mind still spinning from the news. Triplets. He had prayed for just one child, but God had given him 3. It felt like a miracle, a sign that his legacy would live on even after he was gone. Ella sat quietly, one hand resting protectively over her belly. Jason glanced at her and smiled. "Are you scared?" he asked, softly. She nodded. "A little. 3 babies at once. I don't know if I'm ready." Jason squeezed her hand. "You don't have to be ready, Ella. We'll figure it out together." Ella swallowed hard. "But Jason, will you still be here when they come?" Jason's chest tightened. He didn't know the answer. The doctor had given him 5 months to live, and now nearly 6 months had passed. He was still here, but his body was getting weaker every day. Some nights, the pain was unbearable, but he never let Ella see. He wanted her to focus on the pregnancy, not on the fear of losing him. "I will try," Jason whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I will fight with everything I have. I just want to see them, even if it's just for a moment." Tears welled in Ella's eyes. She turned to look at him, her heart breaking. "Jason, I don't want you to go." Jason reached over and wiped a tear from her cheek. "I don't want to go either, my love. But if I do, I need you to promise me something." Ella shook her head. I don't want to talk about this." "Ella, please," Jason insisted gently. "Promise me that you will be strong, that you will take care of our babies and live a full life, even without me." Ella bit her lip, shaking her head. "I can't imagine life without you, Jason." Jason smiled sadly. "You have to, my love, for Brian, Billy, and Beth." The names he had chosen for their children made her smile through her tears. She took a shaky breath and finally whispered, "I promise." Jason kissed her hand. "That's my strong wife." Jason arranged a small surprise for Ella at home. He had decorated their bedroom with soft candlelight and scattered rose petals across the floor. A romantic dinner was set on a small table near the window with a view of the city lights. Ella gasped when she walked in. "Jason, what is all this?" Jason pulled her into his arms. "I just want to make every moment special. We don't know how much time we have, so let's make the most of it." Ella's eyes softened. "You don't have to do all this." Jason chuckled. "I want to. Now, come and sit." They enjoyed their dinner, laughing and talking about their future. Jason told her about the things he wished he could teach his children, how he wanted to take the boys to football games, how he wanted to teach Beth how to ride a bicycle, how he wanted to be there for their first steps, their first words. Ella listened, tears in her eyes. After dinner, Jason led her to bed and held her close. He rested his head against her stomach, his hands gently rubbing the growing bump. "My babies," he whispered, closing his eyes. "Daddy loves you so much." Ella ran her fingers through his hair. "And I love you, Jason." Jason looked up at her, his heart swelling with love. "Ella, you have given me the greatest happiness of my life." And that night they lay in each other's arms, savoring every moment, knowing that time was slipping away. Jason didn't know how many more nights he had left, but for now, he was still here, and that was enough. Chapter 9. A Race Against Time. The days passed quickly, and Jason felt time slipping through his fingers. His body grew weaker, but he refused to let the pain take away his moments with Ella. He was determined to be there when their children arrived, even if it was the last thing he did. Ella, now heavily pregnant, moved slowly around the house. Jason had hired extra help to ensure she didn't stress herself. She was his queen, and he treated her like one. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Ella rested her head on Jason's shoulder. "Do you ever wonder what life would be like if you weren't sick?" she asked softly. Jason sighed. "Every single day." Ella turned to look at him, her eyes filled with sadness. "Do you think God will let you stay long enough to see them?" Jason took her hand and placed it over his heart. "I don't know, Ella, but I'm holding on. I just need to see them, hold them, name them. Then maybe I can rest." Ella shook her head. "Don't talk like that." Jason kissed her forehead. "It's the truth, my love." Despite his weakness, Jason planned one last surprise for Ella. He gathered a few close friends and arranged a small baby shower for her. When Ella walked into the decorated living room and saw the people she loved, she burst into tears. "Jason, you did all this?" she whispered. Jason, sitting in a chair with a blanket over his legs, smiled. "I just wanted to celebrate you and our babies." Ella rushed to his side and hugged him tightly. "I love you so much." Jason cupped her face and whispered, "I love you more." The hospital room was filled with tension. Ella was in labor, screaming as the contractions tore through her body. Jason sat by her side, holding her hand tightly, his own body trembling with weakness. "Breathe, my love. You're strong," Jason whispered, trying to stay strong for her. Ella groaned in pain, squeezing his hand so tightly that he winced. "Jason, I can't do this." Jason leaned closer, pressing his forehead against hers. "Yes, you can, my love. I'm right here. Our babies are coming." The doctors and nurses worked quickly, encouraging Ella to push. The pain was unbearable, but she fought through it, her eyes filled with both agony and determination. And then a baby's cry filled the room. Ella let out a shaky breath, tears streaming down her face. The doctor lifted a tiny baby boy and placed him in Jason's arms. Jason gasped, his entire body trembling as he stared at his son. His eyes glistened with tears. "My son," he whispered. "Brian." Before he could process the overwhelming emotion, another cry followed. The doctor handed him another baby, Billy. Jason's heart felt like it would burst. He held his two sons in his arms, his soul overflowing with joy. And then, the final cry. Beth. Ella sobbed in exhaustion and relief as the doctor placed their little girl in Jason's arms alongside her brothers. Jason looked down at his children, his vision blurred by tears. His heart, weak and failing, was fuller than it had ever been. "Thank you, God," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Thank you for letting me see them." He turned to Ella, his face glowing with happiness despite his weakness. "You did it, my love. We did it." Ella, though exhausted, smiled through her tears. "They look just like you." Jason chuckled weakly. "They are perfect, And in that moment, despite all the pain, despite knowing his time was short, Jason felt at peace. He had seen his children. He had held them. His final wish had come true. Jason held his children close, memorizing every detail of their tiny faces. Brian, Billy, and Beth, his greatest blessings. His eyes burned with tears, but this time they were not from pain or fear. They were from pure happiness. Ella watched him, exhausted, but deeply moved. She had never seen Jason this emotional. He had fought so hard to stay alive for this moment, and now he had won. As the nurses took the babies for their first medical checks, Jason turned to Ella, his weak hand reaching for hers. "You are the strongest woman I know," he whispered. "You gave me a reason to live." Ella sniffed, trying to hold back tears. "And you gave me love." Jason smiled, his grip on her hand tightening. "Promise me something, Ella. Anything. Raise them well. Tell them about me. Let them know I love them before I ever met them." His voice cracked with emotion. Ella nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise, Jason. I will never let them forget you." Jason let out a slow breath, his body feeling lighter. "That's all I need." Going home one last time. 2 days later, the hospital discharged Ella and the babies. Jason, though weaker than ever, insisted on being the one to carry Beth in his arms as they walked out of the hospital. Their driver helped them into the car, and Jason sat beside Ella, cradling his daughter, while Brian and Billy slept in their baby carriers. The drive home was quiet, peaceful. Jason kept staring at the babies, his heart full, but his body failing. When they arrived home, the house was decorated with welcome banners. The staff cheered softly as they entered, congratulating them. Jason smiled, nodded at them, then whispered to Ella, "Let's go to our room. I want to lie down with you and the babies." Ella nodded, helping him upstairs. That night, Jason lay in bed with Ella beside him. The babies slept in their crib, their soft breathing filling the room. Ella turned to Jason, resting her head on his chest. "I love you," she whispered. Jason ran his fingers through her hair, his breath slowing. "I love you more." Silence fell between them, but it was a comforting silence. Jason sighed deeply, his eyes on the ceiling. His body felt light. The pain was gone. A tear slipped from the corner of his eye. He had won the battle. He had seen his children. Slowly his breathing became softer, lighter, until Ella stirred beside him. "Jason." No response. She sat up. "Jason." She shook him gently, panic rising in her chest. Still, no response. Tears filled her eyes as she grabbed his face. His body was still warm, his lips slightly parted in a peaceful smile. But Jason was gone. A wail tore from Ella's throat as she clutched him, shaking her head in disbelief. "No, no, no. Jason, please, wake up, my love." But he didn't. Jason had fought with all his strength. He had held on for as long as he could, and now he had finally found rest. Ella's wail echoed through the house, piercing the silence of the night. The staff rushed into the room, only to stop at the doorway when they saw the heartbreaking sight. Ella holding Jason's lifeless body, shaking him, begging him to wake up. "Jason, please, don't leave me like this. Not now," she sobbed, rocking him in her arms. But Jason was gone. The man who had fought against time, who had held on just to meet his children, had taken his final breath. He had won the battle, but he had lost the war. Ella's tears soaked his shirt as she held him tighter. Her heart shattered into pieces. How was she supposed to live without him? The babies stirred in their crib, as if sensing something was wrong. Their tiny cries filled the room, mixing with Ella's sobs. The next morning, the news of Jason's passing spread. Friends, business associates, and family members poured into the mansion to pay their respects. Jason's lawyer, Mr. Aid, arrived that afternoon with a file in his hands. His face was grim as he sat across from Ella. "I know this is a difficult time, but Jason left strict instructions regarding his estate," Mr. Ady said softly. Ella, still dressed in her nightgown, her eyes swollen from crying, nodded weakly. "What did he say?" Mr. Aid opened the file and began reading. "To my dearest Ella, the love of my life and the mother of my children, I leave everything I own, my properties, my businesses, my investments. You are now in charge of it all. Take care of our children. Raise them with love. And never forget how much I loved you. This is my final wish." Tears streamed down Ella's face as she listened. He had thought of everything. Even in death, he was still protecting her. The burial was grand, attended by many. Jason was laid to rest in a private cemetery, his grave covered with white flowers. Ella stood by his tombstone, her heart heavy with grief. "I love you, Jason," she whispered, touching the cold stone. "I promise to raise our children the way you wanted." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ella stayed strong for Brian, Billy, and Beth. She ran Jason's companies, ensuring that his legacy lived on, but every night she still felt the emptiness beside her. One evening, as she rocked Beth to sleep, she looked up at the framed photo of Jason on the wall. A soft smile touched her lips. "You're still here, my love. In their eyes, in their laughter, in every heartbeat." She kissed Beth's forehead and whispered, "I will never forget you." And with that, Ella continued Jason's legacy, not just in business, but in love.